It's Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist and love to discuss all things health related. Maybe it's mental, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's physical, maybe it's work, maybe it's personal, but raw and unfiltered, where our guests get to say whatever they feel like saying, and I get to say whatever I feel like saying back. So today is going to be a really interesting podcast because we're going to talk about strengths. What do I mean by that? I'm not sure what I mean by that. We're going to find out with my next guest, but I do wonder if I actually know what my strengths are. I think I do, but I wonder if there are some things I could tap into just a little bit better to add them to the list of strengths should somebody actually ask me. So grab something to drink, a comfy spot to sit in. We're going to take a quick break to listen to some sponsors who are really important to me. And then we're going to be back with my next guest to talk about your strengths.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back. I'm glad you stuck around because you might be wondering what your strengths are, or you might be super confident. We're going to find out today with my next guest, Lisa Cummings. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I find this so fascinating. You know, so many people talk about different things in wellness, and you're really my first guest that is an expert in strengths.
Well, how about it?
Right? So when I think of strength first, right, and I'm an ex-power lifter, so bear with me where I come from, right? I'm like, how much weight can you lift? That's how strong you are. But I'm not so sure that's what we're talking about today, is it?
That is funny from a keyword perspective, having a practice for 10 years around strengths. And if you say you're a strengths coach, coming from an athletic background, same. I'm like, I already have a preconceived notion of what a strengths coach is, and it isn't from the mindset perspective. So the kind we're talking about today isn't powerlifting, although that's great too, is we're talking about how you think or feel or act at your natural best and how you can leverage those in your life to make things feel easier, more exciting, more engaging, and you can show up being a better version of you in a way that isn't draining. You can actually show up as a better version of you in a way that brings you energy and enlivenment in your life.
Lisa, that sounds like more work than putting 300 pounds on a bar and standing up with it. It does.
It's funny because, you know, the emotional game of whether it's healing or growing, there's definitely dedication that comes with it to the same extent of being a high level bodybuilder or powerlifter or whatever sport is yours. So there is work in that, finding it and staying aligned with it. But the thing is, once you know what they are, if you can keep them top of mind, it actually makes things easier.
Okay. I'm going to trust you on that. But
Okay.
before we dive into how we find our strengths, I always find that most people have a story as to why the passion. So how did you get here? Like, what encouraged you or changed in your life that this word became so important that now, you spend a good chunk of your day helping people find strength?
Now, part of it, there's always the nurture nature question that comes up when you talk about something like someone's strengths in my context. And so from the nature standpoint, I've always felt like helping people find the best in themselves, looking for the good, being positive. Those have been something that felt very natural to me. And no doubt when I did the strengths assessment for the first time, the first one I did was called StrengthsFinder. One of them was positivity. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's actually a thing. That's fine. Cool. That's something that's easy to use. I like that. Other people seem to resonate with it. It's cool to help people find what's good in them, some things that they may have forgotten or they don't notice. So there's that part that's natural for me personally. And then professionally, what happened when I discovered it, it was back in 1999, Gallup put out this tool, this book called StrengthsFinder, and then later StrengthsFinder 2.0. I read this book being a first-time manager, and it was called First Break All the Rules. And it was from Marcus Buckingham, and he was part of Gallup at that time. And I was being new to being a manager. I was trying to figure out how to do it and not be terrible at it. Like I knew how to manage the work itself, but not the people side. So I did this with my team, and having come from an educational background and a learning and development background, I made up my own workshop for the team. And it absolutely blew my mind. It was like having a human instruction manual for every person on the team. The people I already appreciated, the people I didn't understand, the people that I thought, oh my gosh, they don't perform at all. It helped me see things in them that were really valuable that I was totally overlooking because frankly, I wish they would just be like me. And I didn't know it until I did this assessment, went through the process, but it was so eye-opening that I was a fan for life. So all through my corporate career, I used it with teams. And then in 2015, I left and started doing it full time because I knew it was something I would not get tired of, because finding what's good about people is so, it's so important and purposeful. I knew I wouldn't tire of it, and it turned out to be true.
Why do you think, when you say that, it's funny. I think we're so, as a human race, right? It's not our tendency to necessarily reach out intentionally to find other people's strengths and lift them up. Why do you think we struggle with that so much?
I think you're right. As a human race, there is a lot of that. We have natural cognitive biases, they call it, as survival mechanisms. And it helps us in many ways as a human to find the outlier, find the risk, find the danger. And I think we're so easily tuned into that we forget to look for what's good. And it just takes over and becomes too much of the equation. It's not like you should never look for risks again, but you do have to consciously think, what are my strengths, or what is good about me? What is good about this other person? How can we leverage what already works? Because it's so much easier. It's so much more efficient to do what you're already good at than to try to learn a whole new thing or fix what you think is broken about you. And I love that in the context of workplaces, but I also love it in the context of things like healing, because it's really easy to be in a place where it feels like everything's broken. And if you focus on what is true and good and possible right now, today, and you just make yourself put a little mental energy on it, you can overcome that negative cognitive bias. And it's been studied, the whys, the idea of how much mental energy we put with pain and gain, the emotional effect of potential loss is 2 times that of a potential gain. So we're just motivated by it naturally.
It's interesting, in my profession, because people walk in sick into my office all the time, they are broken, right? They are a mess. They are challenged. And it is interesting how to help people change that mindset of, and I'm not even sure this is the best way, but a fixable mess, right? Like, to change the negative of that into how do we find what your body is doing well and ride that wave, right? Versus going down
Right.
the rabbit hole of more illness. But I know for me, even it's very challenging to get people inspired to look at it with that positive spin.
Mm-hmm. And you can
Yeah.
use these strengths this way. Let's just use that as an example because it's just such an easy context. So I had a time when I had some mystery illness and I was doing pretty poorly physically. And I remember a time where my hands were going numb and getting weak, and I would just be drinking a glass of water and it would fall out of my hands, and I would get at the beginning, I would get really angry, like my hands were broken. What is wrong with you? Why won't you work? Where's all the energy that used to be there? It was really resentment and frustration. And like, I want to be that me that I used to be, come back. And then I was already well into the strengths world, and I had to make myself reframe. And if I use my strengths, strategic, maximizer, positivity, individualization, woo, these are some of the words in the strengths world, but I started looking at it and thinking, okay, positivity, it's going to find what's working. Strategic, it's going to figure out what are the steps, what's the next thing, what decision am I making for the next step, instead of doomsday spiraling into what it could be and what could happen to me 3 years from now and all of that. I'm not going to focus on whether it's brain cancer. I'm going to focus on what's happening right now. I'm getting a signal from my body. I have a symptom and it's actually talking to me, and I'm going to use my strengths to be appreciative that I'm still getting the signal. And so those kind of things, it took a while to reframe it. It took coaching. It takes work. Like you said, it can be hard, but once you get yourself in that mindset, it's fun to keep looking for more of it. And then it's a positive spiral. It's a positive snowball to have that effect of, hey, look, not everything's wrong. Not everything's broken. Some things are working. And if I appreciate what those are, I'm going to be better off and I'm going to be on a path to health or whatever that goal is in front of you.
I love it. One of the things that I think we've got to figure out how to help people with is for people like you and me who understand, and I've had my health challenges too, that were pretty dire at times, how to overcome those. Because it's easy for us right on this podcast to go, just do it, right? Just dig deep and find the positive. But for a lot of people out there listening, it really isn't that easy, to just switch that or flip that switch, right? Got to say that correctly. Flip that switch to be able to turn on that positive mindset. So are there any basic tricks or tools that you use with your clients to help pull them out of that rut to be positive? And I laugh, people are like, you can't be positive all the time. And I'm like, I'm not, right? Like I have my bad moments. I have my victim moments, right? But overall, the other stuff prevails. And I think we need to teach people tools to get them to that same state that, maybe you and I and a bunch of others operate in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I use it in the context of strengths, I could give you a few different quick ideas because different ones are going to resonate with different people, right?
Right.
So if you tend to be a person who wants to be highly accountable, wants to be driven, wants to be positive, that phrase that I said, true, good, possible, that can be an exercise just every day asking yourself, what is true today? What is good today? What is possible today? And spend some time thinking on that, trying to figure out what of this is working. Sometimes that can bring some relief and hope that people need. So that's a little bit more of just almost like a gratitude practice sort of thing. Mm-hmm. If you do something like the Clifton Strengths Assessment, that's my favorite tool, you can learn things about yourself, about how you think or feel or act that are exciting and energizing for you. So for example, if I had that same situation and I led through analytical and intellection and learner, those are a few of the labels that just kind of make easy sense for people. Maybe saying, okay, I'm going to dig in and I have a symptom and I'm going to listen to one podcast a day that is related to the symptom in search of truth that I haven't been able to find yet. Because, a lot of people have those chronic medical issues and they can't find the answer and they can't find the root cause. So maybe they're going to do one thing around it. Maybe if someone led through analytical, they're going to take their symptom tracker and they're going to find patterns and truths that somebody else didn't find because they're the only one tracking certain things. But that might not be fun for someone else to make a spreadsheet full of, their symptom logs. Yet if you lead through analytical, it probably is. And you have your pivot tables made off of it and it's helping you get there. So, one thing I love about the strengths mindset is if it's individualized to you, you're able to do your version of it instead of what somebody else is telling you. Somebody else's how-to might not resonate with you at all. And especially if you are in that situation, like you're talking about your clients coming in, they don't know the root cause, they don't have a lot of hope, and now someone's telling you to put on somebody else's rose-colored glasses, it's not going to be motivating. So looking at strengths and finding more of those innate motivators can work a lot more effectively than just somebody else's, because they just sound like platitudes when it's somebody else's, right?
It's so hard. And I think that's the challenge, right? Is we're all unique in the way we function. And to your point, when you told the story about managing, you had a bunch of people under you that all probably needed different motivation because they had different strengths and different paths to get to the outcome that you need.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's very hard. It's interesting. You said something that I would, and forgive me, but I want to challenge just a little bit too, because I see people say this all the time, and it's that word can't. I actually despise that word can't. I have on my laptop that we're actually even recording on, it says you can and you will, and it's that whole, I find when we use those negative words, and I'd love your opinion on this. If somebody says, I can't find the answer for my healthcare, my response is, you just haven't yet, right? There's always an answer for everything out there. You just might not have found the right path, the right person, the right idea. But it's even all of us, right? Talking on this podcast now, it's so easy. I think our brain is actually wired for the negative, and there's been some studies to show that too, that we go there first, and it's really hard to dig out.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting, even in this, I totally agree with you on the word. I mean, maybe I'll say I can't be 6 feet tall because I'm 5'5". Maybe in that case, I would believe a can't, but,
I don't know, Lisa, I might be able to get you shoes that have 4-inch heels.
Hey, there you go.
See, I always have everything. I might be able to get you 6 feet. So be careful.
6-inch heels. And then I'll be like, I can't walk now.
I'll be like, I have a walker and a cane that will allow you to do that. So
I have stilts. Yeah. So generally, totally, I agree with you. And it sounds like I said can't, and it's not even something I like to have in my vernacular. So that's fun too, just to see how some of these things are really sneaky in our perspective. So, yeah, I totally agree. And I just haven't figured it out yet is a great one. And sometimes if there's something you haven't mastered yet, you haven't figured out yet, there are things that I think are weaknesses. Sometimes we have weaknesses, some things that are such a heavy lift, and it's difficult to parse that out. So for example, if you have chronic illness, chronic pain, and you haven't figured out why or what could the remedy be for you, it can just feel like, oh, I can't get through a day without pain. I can see how people feel that. And then you apply things like this weakness point of view. So do you want to, what are other options? Are you taking an approach that is using someone else's talents, someone else's approach? Because if we're talking about strengths and weaknesses here and how you think or feel or operate, then sometimes when you're in your weakness zone, you're trying to use someone else's tools, someone else's approach, someone else's mental way of doing something, and it's not working for you and it feels like it's sucking the life out of you. In my opinion, if something feels really soul sucking, it might be calling on your weaknesses. And then if it is, can you try something else? Can you try another approach that feels more like you? It's not to say you can't become skilled in a weakness area, but sometimes we will be really hard on ourselves trying to become someone else when you actually have tools at your disposal that are you and they're easy.
So maybe when we identify also our weaknesses, which I'm not so sure is a bad thing to do, it's really then about finding the right tools or the right people that have the strengths to counteract that do resonate, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Because I know, I'd love to sit here and tell you that I'm awesome at everything, and that's 100% not accurate. But recognizing those things that I'm not gifted in or feel comfortable in, I think that's where building a team is really beneficial, right? Whether it's in friendship or business or relationships, to help lift you up, right? And you talk. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because you talk a lot about lifting up competitors, which some people out there are going to go, why would you do that, right? Like, they're a competitor, why would you do that? What? So I'm going to ask you, Lisa, why would you lift up a competitor?
So this one might be a little different from maybe it isn't. I was going to say this is a little different from the weakness perspective, my why, but maybe not. Maybe I am offering a strength or a skill where they're weak. So as I go into kind of third chapter of my career, I'm thinking, gosh, in 5 years, if I retire and let's say I decided to not do this business any longer, wouldn't it be a shame for all of the things I've created over 10 or 15 years to just go away? There's so much that could be valuable to somebody who's building a coaching practice. And so that it, like, the competitive thing, it's a you complete me thing. It's a community thing. Like, I don't know about what it is like in the world of chiropractic and health coaches and medical practitioners, but in the world of professional development kind of coaching, it's a unique space where a lot of people are there helping each other out. I love that about it. So if somebody is like, oh my gosh, you know how to create digital products, you know how to do email marketing, you know how to do X, and they've asked, I've been totally willing to share. Or we use each other as contractors when we have really big gigs and need to pull off something massive. And that's been something that has been appreciated and kind of natural. But then in my more recent iteration of my business, I started Tools for Coaches, and it's literally a practice helping people create their marketing, their evergreen, nurture, how to do email marketing, how to do digital products, how to do all of the business elements, because people who are in my space tend to love the work, the mindset coaching, the life coaching, the health coaching, those kind of things, but not like the business part. And I've always felt like I'm a little bit of a weirdo there. I like operations. I did an MBA. I like all the business stuff. I like email marketing and the tools and the systems. And I think that stuff's really fun. And then just being of a little more of a generous spirit, I think it's cool to contribute that and see what somebody else can do with it. And if I give them my template, maybe this speaks to my maximizer. One of my strengths is called maximizer. And it's about, like, whatever it is, take it and amplify it. Start from something and iterate on it and make it great. So if I can take my thing and give it to a coach who focused on divorced dads, their remaking of it is not going to sound like mine, but they can take my starting place, they can rewrite it in their words and put their branding on it and be 2 times as fast or 3 times as fast as if they created it on their own. I think that's so cool. So maybe it also feeds my maximizer to be able to do it. And it feels good from a kind of like maybe a legacy standpoint, but just giving something legs that could just otherwise die. But there's so much usefulness and people need this stuff so much over the years of just seeing how much people forget that they're great. So that's a big motivator for me.
I love that. To me, it screams the word empowerment, right? Like, I love to empower other people. In my profession, we, depending on the statistics, we treat somewhere between 6 and 9% of the population. And I laugh when people are like, oh, we can't have a competitor opening up next door. And I'm like, oh, I want like 18 competitors next door to me, because, there's 90+% of the population that I don't get my hands on. In my head, there is no competition, right? That word is sort of diffused, based on that. It's all about finding the right people to help you and grow and accomplish the tasks. And I love the idea of empowering other people to do what I do as well, because again, if I've got a skill set that rocks, to your point, why not let other people benefit from it? And if you don't love it, don't take it. That's okay too. But I think it's so amazing the people that are willing to share their gifts in order to better everything that we do. So I'm just going to say thank you in your space for, taking that on, because when I need help with something, I hope that they've been coached by you.
Thank you. I think it's easy to spot it in other industries sometimes. Like if somebody said, "Oh, I don't want another chiropractor on the same corner." Well, I think about my chiropractic experiences personally, and I have one person who really focuses on frequency specific microcurrent. I have one person who focuses on adjustment, and I have one person who focuses on nutrition really heavily, and they all do a little bit of the same thing, but who they are to me is really clear what their uniqueness is. And I think we're all like that, but it's for some reason, then when you're on the inside, you're like, oh, the banner says the same thing. They say coach or they say chiropractor. Ew, it could be scary. But actually, the more market share, the more prevalent these kind of practices become to a population, the more the demand comes up anyway. So
right,
I love
right.
how you think, because it shouldn't be a scary thing. It should be exciting.
Absolutely. And I wonder, I'm curious too, so when people reach out to you for help, or even just people you observe and maybe haven't asked you for help, how many of us really do you think struggle in knowing what our strengths are, right? Like I'm very comfortable in my skin and my profession and what I do well. And I know what I do well. And I know what lane I probably shouldn't be walking in, right? Or at least refer to somebody else who walks in it better. How many of us really struggle in understanding that? I mean, is that really the gist of what we're talking about here, is knowing that, to be able to, if somebody says to you, what do you do well, being able to answer it with a couple sentences?
I used to have a video to promote the programs for corporate, and it was a person kind of like walk the street videos, like, what are you good at? What are you good at? And it's just a bunch of people going, they're just awkward. And is it because they don't know, or is it because talking about it feels braggadocious? There are probably some elements of that too. But otherwise, I would say it's overwhelming how either people don't know and don't remember at all, or they're absolutely uncomfortable talking about it and thinking about it, or they know their skills really well. And that is part of why I think it's about a comfort in owning them and trying to contribute them because they have that fear of they don't want to be seen as arrogant and all of that. So what happens is, if you talk skills, like if someone is really good in a piece of software, or they're a software developer and they're really good at a certain type of code they can write, they can say that all day long with comfort. And you think about what people write in their resumes. It's always these skills and certifications, and they'll put letters behind their names for days. But then what are you really good at gets real awkward. So it is a combination. Do they know it? And then also, are they comfortable owning it? And I always like to share this idea that if you just take that spotlight feeling that feels a little uncomfortable and you focus it outward, like if you take those strengths and you're thinking, well, how can those be a contribution to the people around me? Then it doesn't feel selfish at all. It feels amazing. It feels like a gift to the world. It might not always make it easy to talk about right out of the gate. So I always separate what you're really good at and how you operate. And I think people are good at what they know, but they're not good at owning that personal brand and the strength of how I think, how I operate, and how that is unique. We just don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but it's also the one that we just don't give attention to in the way that we operate.
So I'm a big fan of creating new words, because I tend to put two words together because I speak too fast and then I come up with a new word. I want to steal braggadocious. Can I steal that? I love that.
Please.
I want a t-shirt now that says, be braggadocious, be bold, it's important. And, like changing the mantra of bragging isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be a thing of sharing, again, your strengths. I love that. Braggadocious.
I think it's actually a real word. I might have made it up, but I think it's a real word.
Is it really? I mean, I want to give you credit.
We can have a fact checker on this.
All right. We'll have to get back to everybody. I mean, I'll definitely give you credit. Like on the bottom of the t-shirt, it'll say brought to you by Lisa Cummings,
Excellent.
I'm not big on stealing ideas. I'm big on sharing ideas. So I
Yes.
will not steal it, but even though I said I was going to steal it, I was going to steal it to use it. Braggadocious. I love that. All right. I want to switch gears a little bit, Lisa, because I found something really interesting about you. When I read your bio, you talked about hiking, but you also talked about playing the drums. And I've got to admit, just looking at you, right? Because we form judgment when we look at people. Like if somebody said to me, what do you think Lisa does in her, off time? I would not have picked drummer. I just wouldn't have. And I don't know why you don't look like a drummer to me, but you just don't. So I want to talk about that, like in the way of why drumming and how does that play a role in developing your own personal strength? Because I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, I always get a lot of comments either, oh, a female drummer, how cool. And then sometimes I'll get, oh, and left-handed, whoa. And oh, I even make it wilder because I had a hip issue. I customized my kit when I was learning so that I could play standing up because I didn't want to sit that long. And if you're going to practice 3 hours a day, you just don't I don't want to sit down that long. So I have all kinds of things are unique about it. But also I think to your reaction, sometimes people will be like, well, there's no nose ring, no tattoos. I don't, certain things that don't make me come off as that musician, especially a hard rock band musician straight away. But I love music. I've always loved music. And I actually didn't take it up until I was 40 years old. My husband and I had this moment where we were having a conversation about how do we come into this next era of our lives and not just become boring old people? And we were like, what was on the list of what have I always wanted to do? And so learn to play guitar came up. And I was like, well, if we're actually going to learn something, well, we should pick up different things because maybe we could play together instead of just doing the same thing side by side. And then also I thought, what do I love? When I listen to music, what do I love? And I've always loved the drums and bass. And so it was between those two instantly. And we were avid concert goers and we live near Austin, Texas. So there's plenty of music to be seen, all live music anytime you want. And I'm the person who's like, where's the subwoofer? I want to stand right in front of it so that my body can vibrate. And I could hear none of the music. I could just close my eyes and feel my body vibrate and be happy with the bass levels coming through there. So I picked drums. Maybe I should have picked bass because they are really a lot to schlep around. But anyway, the drums are really fun. And I love the challenge. The mental challenge is so great because you have 4 limbs moving independently. So you have to have your brain able to separate. This one's going in triplet time. This one's going single. This one's going, it's a lot going on. And I sing while I'm drumming. So it's like a 5th independent thing. So I feel like this is going to prevent Alzheimer's totally. But that was it. That was our motivation. And we just dove into it, started having a lot of fun with it, found the world's greatest coach, Paul Lidell, who got us so accelerated in our learning early on that it was only a few years in and we had recorded our own original music already and just had so much fun with all of that. So that's how it got started.
So I think, you know what, I got to tell you, it's interesting. When my kids, I have 3 kids, as most people know, and when they were little, music was a big part of my life when I was younger too. I played the piano. Although I did take 3 years of voice lessons. And if I were to start singing now, we would lose every single listener ever and nobody would return because I cannot carry a tune. But my kids each, I said, pick an instrument. My oldest son picked guitar and my youngest son picked piano and my daughter picked drums. Okay. Now she was real little. She was not 40 at the time. She's not quite there yet, but she was real little and she picked drums. So I bought her a drum set. I'm sure it was a garbage drum set. No, we didn't have it made for her because it was like, got to see. And after her banging on these drums in the house, like I have to tell you, Lisa, it took every ounce of me to not go, you can't do this anymore and throw the drums in the garbage because,
there's the can't word. Now we know when you say can't.
Right. I mean, and again, I'm not, even though I called that out, like I am not perfect at that at all, but I was like, oh my God, like this is why people go mad when their children pick an instrument that, doesn't resonate. And I hate to admit this, but I'm kind of glad that she didn't practice after a period of time and she gave it up and lost interest. And as much as I wish my kids were more into music, I was like, the headaches went away and my health returned. So in my space, the drums wasn't necessarily a strength. I'm glad in your world that it's proven to be. It's really, really awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, I almost want to shift a little bit from the word strength, if you'll allow me to, just a little bit, even though I think it's probably true, and talk about even one of your hobbies like hiking. I'm a big fan of nature and grounding and getting quiet, outside. What does that do for you that might encourage other people to get involved, whether it's hiking or any other outdoor activity? Is there something that helps motivate you through that activity that builds some of your strengths that you found?
Well, I do personally love hiking so much that it doesn't require a lot of motivation to keep going, but I think that is part of the beauty of being in nature. It's so nice that feeling sunlight on your face, taking your shoes off and getting grounded, walking and being in that forest bathing concept, all of that it feels amazing. So in that regard, it doesn't take a lot to motivate me, but I did amplify my hiking for a medical reason. And I thought it was very motivating after having medical issues, adrenal issues, all kinds of things like this. I have a functional doctor who gave me a challenge and he said, Lisa, this year's assignment is to be more intense about being less intense.
I love that.
So I was like, what activity could that be? Because formerly athlete mindset, it was like, what's the heaviest weight I can lift? What's the hardest I can go in a HIIT workout? What is the, drums banging as hard as I can for hours on end. So, when I thought about things like mindfulness practices, meditation, yoga, things like that were more gentle on the body, I just kind of took the list, like which ones of the things that are less intense but supportive of my body, which ones are calling to me. And I've always been a hiker. It's always been a favorite, but it's just become the thing. And instead of me, like the old me would have said, oh, too many days hiking, not enough days lifting. It needs to be this ratio. I would really be hard on myself about how I was working it out. But now if it ends up being 5 of the 7 days of the week, if I'm hiking and I only lifted once, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that because I know it feels good on my body.
I love it. Where's your favorite hike? Where will we find you?
You will find me in the summer in the mountains, in the Pikes Peak region. We spend a lot of time hiking up there and the trails are endless. And I love the contrast with Texas where I am. Everything is so far apart that when we hike and I pull up all trails and I try to use the nearby feature, it will say 2 and it'll be 2 trails and they'll be within an hour. And when I go there in Colorado and spend time in the summers, I will pull it up and it will say 500 plus. And it's not kidding. They're just everywhere. And it's so stunning. And the air is crisp and it's incredible.
I love Colorado. My son is now living out there and it's fun, although it's hard to get acclimated a little bit from Illinois out there. Pikes Peak is interesting to me. We drove that one time and started out in a Jeep with the top down, got kicked out of the top because a storm was coming through and experienced snow, ice, and blinding conditions on the way down, and then ended with the Jeep back open and the sun shining. I mean, we went through all 4 seasons, and talk about scary going down the side of a mountain with no railing where you can't see. I'm glad I'm here to tell you the story, quite frankly. So I think I'm going to stay out of the car on Pikes Peak, but I would absolutely join you to do a hike next time I'm out there because it is just beautiful. Colorado is just amazing for that. I absolutely love it. Well, Lisa, I got to tell you something. We got to take a quick break because we've got some sponsors that are important that I want to take a quick listen to. But when we come back, I want to have a little bit of fun. We're going to do some rapid fire questions. You up for that?
I'm up. Let's go.
All right. Everybody hang tight. Don't disappear because when we come back, we're also going to share with you how you can find out what your strengths are. Lisa's got a tool for us. We're going to do that when we come back. Hang tight. Give us just a minute. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back to the Positively Altered podcast. I am here with my guest, Lisa Cummings. We started talking about strengths. We ended talking about hiking. I think they're both kind of the same because you need some strength to do that, both mentally and physically. Now we're going to jump into our rapid fire questions. Lisa, you ready for me?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Just first thing that comes to mind. If you were the ruler of the universe, who would you trust to drive your chariot?
My husband.
Aw, how long have you been married for?
We've been a solo thing for 30 years. I'm going to have to do math to figure out the marriage part because we did this like long-term live together thing. But yeah,
nice.
Full commitment living together 30 years.
Wow, that's fabulous. Would he say the same thing? Would you drive his chariot, do you think?
No.
Oh.
Because he would drive his own. He loves to drive.
You know what? Without meeting him, that sounds probably about right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Doesn't surprise me with the answer. If you had to change your name, like we ask you to change your password, what would you change your name to?
Well, I don't have a lot. I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind is an Amazon package alias I use sometimes, which is Lizzie.
Okay. Nice. You don't want Amazon to know your real name?
We don't have time in the speed round to explain my alias.
Okay, that's fair. I know. I tell everybody, I'm like, we're going to do this rapid fire, and it's just never rapid fire because I have like qualifying questions after you answer it.
That is legit.
I'm just naturally curious, like I can't just accept the answer. All right, let's keep going. If all animals on the planet could be domesticated, what animal would you pick to be your in-house pet?
In-house, a possum.
Oh. All right, you know what? I'm not going to ask why. Next one.
I mean, no one else is going to pick them. They're so ugly, but they're so cute and they're so good.
But I think ugly is subjective, underrated. Right? That's totally subjective. Possum. Okay. So we'll make a mental note that if we could ever find a domesticated possum, that's the gift we send you for doing the podcast is a possum. Dr. Cindy stamped possum.
I guarantee I'll be the only person who ever gives that answer.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, if I can find somebody that answers the question that way, we'll have you both back as guests and then we'll dive into the why behind that.
We need to be friends. Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's something deeply psychologically odd about picking a possum. So, all right, good. What food should be considered a breakfast food that is not?
Meat and veg.
Like all meat and veg?
All meat and veg.
Do you eat meat and veg for breakfast?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a great way to eat clean and not have to re-cook. Like if you have leftover steak and broccoli sprouts, you just wake up and gnaw on it. It's great. It's so efficient.
Yeah. I still can't figure out why breakfast foods are breakfast foods. Like, why isn't it just food and you eat it whenever you want to eat it?
I think we've convinced ourselves that, like society level, just if it's sugary, it's breakfast food. And that's why everyone likes breakfast for all meals because it's addictive sugar.
Okay. Yeah, we've got to change that. I'm working to change that.
Yeah, good.
All right. 2 more. You ready? What is your favorite body part and why?
Probably my calves. I've always had super strong calves relative to everything else. And I got good ones, like genetically, the ones that can be popping and big. So I've always loved my big old calves. And when I was a kid, I ran. I used to run on my toes, long distance, like in track in high school. I ran long distance on my toes. So I just made those suckers bigger and stronger. And so they've always been just great. And they kind of like make me bouncy, but also strong. They just feel really outsized strong.
I love that. I hope my daughter is listening to this podcast because she's this little tiny thing with these awesome calves and she always says she hates them because they're big. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so cute and sexy and, strong and powerful. So I hope she's listening so she gets inspired. All right, Lisa, last but not least, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
I loved how you really embody this positively altered thing. Like you're just about finding these good threads in the world and you don't care where it goes. Like you're not attached to any outcome or any conversation. I love that you'll let it flow to whatever you think will serve your audience. And that's just a beautiful thing. That was really fun.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Lisa. So share with everybody. I know there's a tool we do want to share with everybody listening about finding your strength. Will you share everybody? Will you share everybody? Will you share with everybody? See, this is all about lifting everybody up. We're going to share everybody to the entire world. Will you share, please, with everybody how we get access to that tool, where we find it, and then how do we find you, follow you, and, be a part of your world?
Yes. So Lead Through Strengths, that'll give you a spelling challenge, but leadthroughstrengths.com, plural, is my main website. On that site, there's a link that says buy codes. If you want to buy one of those codes to do the Clifton Strengths assessment for under $100, even for under $30, you can get the basic one. It's so worth it for life to go grab a code and do the thing. So there's the Clifton Strengths assessment. If you are the kind of person who wants life coaching, mindset coaching, I have a Get Coached link. And then also the Tools for Coaches, that membership we were talking about, where I serve coaches with their evergreen marketing strategies and growing their business. That's under Tools for Coaches. And then just in general, if you want to connect, Facebook's an okay place. Just do personally, if you search Lisa Cummings, you're going to find 1,000 of us. So you probably won't know who I am. So that one's a little more difficult without the URL. But LinkedIn, I actually got the one that says Lisa Cummings. So if you do LinkedIn/n/Lisa Cummings, find me there.
Excellent. I just love it. Well, I have to tell you, my favorite thing about doing the podcast was recognizing the fact that there is probably not a human being on this planet that doesn't have some strengths that we can tap into, and allowing us the grace and the encouragement to lift that up and not feel braggadocious or braggalicious or bragga, whatever it might be. It isn't about that. It's about honoring our true strengths and using them for good and not for evil, right? As the saying goes. And I'm just very appreciative that you brought awareness to just such an important topic and a word that needs to resonate with absolutely all of us. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's podcast. If you want to learn more about what's going on in my world, please check out drcindyspeaks.com or shoot me an email at hello@drcindyspeaks. We'd love to hear from you. Also, make sure you follow us and share the podcast with others so that we can continue to build the audience and share some really great ideas. I love that you joined me. We'll be back next week. I hope today has left you all positively altered.